So let's learn about all the different cuts that we use during editing. These cuts will be really important. Moving forward, you're going to have to use them, and depending on what's happening inside the video, you would have to choose the right cut. The first cut is the base of every other cut, and that is when we just do a simple split. We have used this cut a lot in the previous lessons, and I will show you an example in our poem video lesson. So all of these cuts that we did are considered hard cuts. There's nothing going on, we just cut from video A to video B. And this is great for videos where you want people to remain calm and focused on what's happening inside the video. So this type of cut is used in almost every video out there, whether it's a hype music video, a sad movie, happy movie, action film. These are really good because people can stay focused on the dialogue, let's say, or just the narration. So in this example, we had someone read poetry, and I wanted people to just listen to that poetry and just get these supplementary cuts, which, as we learned, are called B-rolls. So if I did some crazy transition in this poem video, you would not be focused on what the narration is saying, but you would be distracted and focused on this really intense transition. So let's see what that would look like. Go to the effects menu, and I'm going to look for a transition. I'm going to grab like an iris cross. So this is what the transition looks like. Now we're going to see this in our poem video. So I got every audio track there too.
My despair, but I hear no response.
So as you saw, that was pretty distracting and it was really random. And this is something you definitely want to avoid, because in editing, you don't want to just show off with your transition skills when the time is not appropriate. So these types of transitions are usually seen in like a really basic photo collage, and they're not really used in professional setting unless it's for something special or something comedic. Otherwise, you don't want to use a cut that is too distracting when your video is calm and peaceful. So let's get rid of that and stick with these simple cuts. So we had the simple cut in the poem video, the commercial video that we did, and you can use it in every situation. The second type of cut is called the jump cut, and you create some sort of variation within your entire clip. So let's go here. I'm going to grab a talking video like this. We have a video of these two people just talking. And let's say this video was like 20 minutes long. You don't want to just stare at two people talking that whole 20 minutes. So one strategy was to use B-rolls. I'll get into that in a second, but another strategy to keep the audience engaged during this video is to use jump cuts. So we're going to go through here. We're going to make a cut. Keep the video going for a little bit. Make a cut again. And we're just going to like zoom in this one video section. So let's scale it up by like 130%. And we're going to get something like this. You have probably seen this cut a lot in YouTube videos, gaming videos, and just something where there's a lot of narration. Now, what comes after the jump cut depends on what type of video you're making. If it's a professional, let's say, interview, you would want to change the angles of the video. But if it's like a YouTube clip, that's not as important since people just watch it for entertainment purposes. Jump cuts can also be used in a recording. For example, here, let's say the subjects did something wrong. You can just cut that bit out, causing another jump cut. So you can either use jump cuts to hide your mistakes or just get rid of a section that you do not want, or create variation in a video that is just long and not as entertaining. Jump cuts are quite common in montages too. Let's say we have this montage of someone just boxing for a really long time. And in montages, they create a lot of jump cuts. I'm going to make some random cuts here. And this can show that this person has been practicing all day long and the time has passed. Again, sometimes you may want to scale this in so there's more variation. Maybe zoom in onto his bicep, zoom in onto a clock in the back, and just show that this character has been practicing for a very long time. So that was our second cut. The third cut is when you cut exactly on a certain motion. So this is referred to as the action cut. So I have 2 clips of boxers and I grab them right in. And you're just looking for a set of motion. So in this case, it would be this person punching. Look for motion blur. Make a cut right there with Command K, Control K on Windows. And then go to your second clip. Look for a punch that has a motion blur. Now here we're getting some light changes. So because it's called an action cut, you would want to do it on some sort of action. It doesn't necessarily have to be sports or like cars. It could also be like someone waving their hands, someone walking, someone jumping, just any sort of movement that involves motion blur. You would want to keep that for this type of transition. So this type of cut can show that the action is constant and there was no pauses. So if I have different clips of people boxing, cutting on the punches that they do, I can keep the action going without any interruptions. So here's another example when both of the subjects are kind of bending over, ducking a punch. Because they had motion blur, both of the videos, this is considered an action cut. Our next 2 cuts are the L cut and the J cut. This type of cut is something we have used quite a lot in the previous lessons, especially in the poem video lesson where we learned about vocal sound design. Beginning with the J cut, it is when you introduce the audio from video 2 into video 1. So you're kind of showing a sneak peek of that scene when it's not even on screen. So let me show you what that looks like. So here is an example of a J-cut. We have a video where there's people talking and then a video of the seagulls flying in the air. But we begin to hear the seagull sound effect on this video. So this is video 1, this is video 2. But the audio begins on video 1. This is our audio. So before we can see the seagulls on screen, we can hear their voice. So if you take a look right here, these are the 3 videos that we're dealing with. So it's called a J-cut because of the shape. This is the top and this is the bottom. This is a J-cut when you introduce the audio of the second clip into the first clip. This is used quite a lot in dialogue videos or just videos where people are speaking. Used for sound effect purposes like this, or just when you want to switch between a A-roll and a B-roll. So that's what a J-cut is. Now the opposite of a J-cut is called the L-cut. That is when the audio from video 1 continues into video 2. We had this in the same project. So this right here is an L-cut. So the first video ends here, but the audio continues even after it has finished. So this is the first video. You can see that the audio is stretching out onto video number 2. This is called an L cut, and the shape is pretty much like an L. Let's play this back. So before we see video 2, we're getting the audio from video 1. This is used quite often in almost every video, especially when you're dealing with sound effects. using J cuts and L cuts can introduce audio in a smoother way. It's really important that you ease the audio in instead of just showing it out of nowhere. You don't want the audience to get startled by a new audio, and instead you want them to kind of slowly get introduced as to what's going to happen in the next clip, either using a J-cut to introduce the concept of the second video when the audience is still on the first video, or use an L-cut to let the audio from video 1 linger onto video 2. So these two cuts are like one of the most important cuts out there, and they can really help elevate your editing and make you look more professional. Cut number 6 is called parallel cutting. So that means that you have two clips and you're just switching between the two. So we had this happen in the commercial video that we did, in the scene where she was partying. There we go. So when she was partying, it's all happening in one night. We had this video, and then we had this video. So we were constantly switching from this video onto this video. And then as we got closer to the end, we kind of sped up this transition. Doing this can create suspense, and the audience is just waiting to see what's going to happen after all of these tension. It also doesn't have to be in one setting. The boxing video is a good example. If you have two people doing one activity in two different rooms, you can still use this technique to create suspense. So let's say in this example, these two people are rivals and they're both practicing for the final match. Switching between these guys can help create tension and lets us know as the audience that these two are just practicing really hard, and the suspense builds on as to who's going to win this final match. So it doesn't have to be in one setting, but the two videos should be related, or else it's going to be considered a hard cut, which is the first cut that we learned about. Our next cut is called a cutaway. This is again a very popular cut. It's used in like interviews, movies, and it's basically when you switch from your A roll to your B roll. So we saw the Emma Watson interview earlier, where first we got different angles of the two people talking, and then we cut into a clip of Beauty and the Beast. So we switched from the A roll, which was Emma Watson and the interview person talking, into the B roll, which was the animation. So doing this can help the audience not get bored, because interviews can be quite long and you just don't want to see those two people on screen from start to finish. And it can also help make your videos look more professional. So if you have a talking head of yourself and you're talking about cars for 10 minutes, you want to add some stock footage of cars just to help complement what you're saying. Otherwise, the chances of people clicking away will be increased. So make sure that you have good and suitable B-roll ready for your A-rolls. Our next cut is called the match cut. And this can be a little bit more complicated because it's directly related to the type of video that you have. So when you have one motion at the start of video A, you want that same motion at the start of video B. And then you're just going to connect these two motions, resulting in a match cut. So this is a B-roll by this person. And B-roll in the filmmaking community also refers to really professional shots of either products, a procedure such as cooking, craft making, and all that. It's basically a bunch of creatively filmed videos put together in a really seamless way. They can be very fun to look at, very cinematic, very relaxing. And this is different from the B-roll that we were talking about until now. So let's take a look at the beginning of this video. So notice all of the swiping motion. This was not done with Premiere Pro, this was done with the camera. Now with Premiere Pro, you can make it smoother, but about 90% of the work is in the camera movement. So we had the same setting in the first video. It's the same shelf. We're kind of panning upwards and then downwards. The person is panning in one motion and then starting the second video with that exact same motion. This results in a match cut. So as you can see, everything is so seamless. It looks like everything was shot in one go, but it was not. And the reason why it feels so seamless is because of all of those camera movements. So if you are filming your own videos, consider adding these type of transitions so that you can create a match cut inside Premiere Pro. Our next cut is when we switch from something really intense into something really chill, or the other way around. So that's when you have like something really epic, like this boxing video, and then you cut into this really peaceful video of food. So here there's a lot of tension, and then here everything is peaceful. It can work the other way too. You have a peaceful clip, and then you jump into something intense. Now we had this in the commercial video as well, where the subject wakes up. So we created that tension with really fast cuts, and then we jump into this scene of the subject just sleeping. So the audience feels the tension, feels the suspense, and then they get greeted by a really peaceful clip. The next cut is a very basic cut, which isn't as popular in professional setting unless you're trying to create something peaceful. So if we go to our poem video lesson, at the end of our video, we have a fade to black effect. And this is considered a crossfade. It's basically when you use fade in your cuts. So this can either be fade to black, which is what we had here. It can be a dissolve between two videos. So something like this. It just kind of fades into video number 2. We have fade to white and a lot of other ones which you can find right here. We have a group for it. Cross dissolve, black, white. All of these guys are kind of like a beginner transition. For most of you starting out, it may be tempting to use these transitions, but it's best not to because it can show that you're inexperienced with the theory of cuts and transitions, and you're just putting something in between your clips to make it look better. But these, while they look like really seamless and cool, they're not exactly professional. So you're just gonna make your video look unprofessional by putting in these transitions. But there are times where you would want to use these, and that is for times where you have a very slow-paced, chill video. So if you have like these peaceful clips where nothing is happening, the camera isn't moving as much, and maybe you have a motivational speech in the back, a piano music, you just want to add like a simple crossfade to keep the chill pace throughout the transition. So that's our crossfade cuts. Our next cut is a different type of a match cut. The previous one that we saw was related to camera movement, but this one is when you just have different videos but with one movement. So if I have this video of this person walking and I have another video of a person walking in a similar frame layout, I can put these two together and it would be even better to match the two subjects. So let me show you what I mean. I'm gonna cut this right here. Let's pretend this is two different videos. And I'm gonna add a tint to the second one. just to make it look like it's a different type of video. So if these are my two videos, I'm cutting exactly on the similar movement. So when the person is moving their right leg forward, I'm going to make a cut into my second video that starts with my subject moving their right leg forward. So this is a match cut that is not directly related to how you filmed the video. Our next cut is for when you use an object that covers your camera to transition into video B. For example, right here, the wall covers the camera, and when I go past this wall, I can transition into my second video. So I'm going to wait for the wall to exit, cut it right here, delete this one, and bring my second video. And then I'm just going to cut this. Of course, you want to make it look like the lighting is good, or else this will not look as seamless. So you would bring this up, mask out these extra bits to introduce the second video. We will focus on the how-tos in a further lesson. I just want to introduce you guys to the different cuts, and moving forward, we're going to get an in-depth tutorial with examples on how to use these cuts. So these were the 12 cuts that you should know, and always think of them when you're choosing your transitions. Each of them can make your audience feel a certain way, so it's important to know how to use them and when to use them. Now that we know what the different cuts mean and what they look like, it's now time to create them inside Premiere Pro.